So, if you're watching the second podcast, that means I probably didn't bore you to death with the first one, or your name is Claudia Mitchell and you sort of have to watch these podcasts to give me a grade. Regardless, the second podcast is about new media. Now, we've been talking about technology, we've been talking about media, we've been talking about new media, but I haven't really defined what it is, or not a lot of people, for that matter, have defined what new media is. So, on my quest, on my journey to find out what new media means, I read a lot, I looked into a lot of different publications and tried to find different definitions of what people consider to be new media. Now, I need to move this window and let you know what I found. Well, okay, the first one, the obvious one, I guess, is David Buckingham. David Buckingham in 2003 wrote a book called Media Education, Literacy Learning, and Contemporary Culture. It was published by Cambridge, rather Polity Press in Cambridge. And he says that new media is the range of modern communications, television, the cinema, video, radio, photography, advertising, newspapers and magazines, recorded music, computer games, and the internet. Media texts are the programs, films, images, websites, and so on that are carried by these different forms of communication. So, okay, that's his definition. Sorry, that's not his definition of new media, that's his definition of media. Now, we have to find, because we don't know already what it is. I mean, we know what it is. We can all define, we can all think of something and say, well, this is new media. But we really don't know what new media is, or we haven't really come up with a real definition of new media. And so I think that the best way to start is start with the beginning. And I picked up this book called New Media, Critical Introduction. And of all books, I'm assuming this one should have a definition. And again, it does have a definition. This was published in 2003 by Routledge. Wonderful book, by the way. Fascinating read, not fun in any respect, but it's a critical introduction, which it means what it means, right? You read this as an introductory text to understanding what is new media. And in the opening pages here, one of the things that struck me was that it does talk about new media, and it does address something that has been my concern for quite a number of years, I guess, at this point. In the introduction, there's the introductory chapter is what are new media, and they split it up into different sections. One of them is the ideological connotations of the new, and the authors, many of them, Martin Lister, John Dovey, Seth Gittins, Ayn Grant, and Kieran Kelly, write that when we use the word new, there is this implicit understanding that it is avant-garde, glossy. You know, when we talk about something that's new, it's something that's usually improved in advertising, at least. You know, new Tide, new now color safeguard Tide, or you know, Crest will make your teeth whiter now with the new bottle of Crest. I don't know why I'm obsessed with this idea of cleanliness these days, but I guess they're two valid examples. So here the authors write, the third sense of the new in new media as a reference to the most recent also carries the ideological sense that new equals better, and it carries with it a cluster of glamorous and exciting meanings. The new is also the cutting edge, the avant-garde, the place for forward-thinking people to be, whether they be producers, consumers, or indeed media academics. These connotations of the new are derived from the modernist belief in social progress as delivered by technology. Now, they go on to say that this isn't necessarily good, or this isn't necessarily bad, but they don't go into great detail, and I've tried to find, I mean, maybe there is a small paragraph, but they really don't go into greater detail about this. They just say, well, you know, this is what happens. Now, the problem of the new in new media is that it creates a schism. It creates I guess, what academics would call a binary in the conversation. So it means that if we have new media, there is necessarily old media. So what is old media? Is it television? Is it radio? Is it print? Is it writing? Is it talking? What is old media and what is new media? And how do we improve new media through old media? Now, I've been researching this quite a bit. I've been writing a lot about this. One of the interesting things that I found is that Microsoft, for example, has come out with 21 versions of its word processing software called Word, the software that we all use to write. And each one of these versions does exactly the same thing. It lets you write. It doesn't perform any miraculous task. It might have more clip art in the gallery, and it might have a couple more fonts or the ability of creating fancier bullets or an autosave feature. But it all boils down to the same idea that each version of Word has been essentially is essentially the same. It does the same task, and yet each version of Word needs a faster processor, a better operating system, a bigger hard drive. Why is that? Why do we necessarily have to expand and change things? There isn't a direct correlation between new media and this, but I think it's an interesting comparison because it goes back to the notion that John Moore had. I think his first name was John. No, Gordon Moore. I'm sorry, Gordon E. Moore.